In 2019, a single mother in Pennsylvania turned down a raise, not because she did not want it, because the math said no. Her boss offered her $2,400 more per year. If she took it, she would lose $7,200 in benefits. The financial system had built an invisible wall, and she had just walked into it. This is not a story about laziness. This is not a story about people refusing to work. This is a story about rational calculation inside an irrational system. The American financial system contains specific income levels where earning more money makes you poorer. These thresholds are not published on a single list. They are not taught in schools. They are not explained when you apply for benefits. Most people discover them only after they have already crossed one, and by then the damage is done. The promise is simple: work harder, earn more, climb the ladder. Your life improves. That is how it is supposed to work. But between roughly $25,000 and $65,000 in annual income, that promise breaks down. There are invisible thresholds scattered across dozens of programs, administered by different agencies, with different income limits and different calculation methods. Cross one of these thresholds by a single dollar, and you can lose thousands in benefits overnight. Consider a composite example based on real cases. A single parent working full-time at $15 per hour, annual income of roughly $31,200. This person qualifies for SNAP benefits worth about $3,600 per year. Medicaid coverage for the children, a childcare subsidy worth approximately $8,400 annually. The earned income tax credit adding another $3,600. Subsidized housing with rent capped at 30% of income. When you add the value of these benefits to earned income, the total real resources available come to approximately $46,800. Now this person receives a promotion, $18 per hour. That brings annual income to $37,440, a raise of $6,240. On paper, a 20% increase. Life-changing. Except when you run the numbers, something breaks. The SNAP benefits disappear entirely. Income is now too high. Loss of $3,600. The childcare subsidy drops dramatically. Loss of $6,000. The children no longer qualify for Medicaid. Now this parent must purchase marketplace insurance at $4,800 per year, with worse coverage than Medicaid provided. The earned income tax credit phases out as income rises. Loss of $1,200. Subsidized housing rent increases because it is calculated as a percentage of income. Additional $1,200 per year. The total losses and new expenses add up to $16,800. The $6,240 raise costs $16,800 in benefits and increased expenses. The net result is that this person is now $10,560 poorer than before accepting the promotion. Taking the raise was the financially wrong decision. According to a 2020 analysis by the Congressional Budget Office, a single parent with one child moving from $20,000 to $40,000 in earned income can face an effective marginal tax rate exceeding 80% when you account for lost benefits. That means keeping less than 20 cents of every additional dollar earned, not because of income taxes, because of how benefits disappear. These are not accidental overlaps. Each program was designed separately, by different agencies at different times with different political pressures. Nobody engineered the combined effect, but nobody fixed it either, because that would require coordinating across dozens of agencies and admitting that the system punishes work. Most people assume benefits gradually decrease as income rises, a smooth ramp downward. The reality is that many programs have hard cliffs. Cross the income threshold by $1 and the entire benefit vanishes overnight. Medicaid in non-expansion states cuts off at 138% of the federal poverty level. For a family of two, that is approximately $20,120. Cross that line by $1 and you lose coverage worth $8,000 to $12,000 per year. Childcare subsidies vary by state but commonly cut off between $35,000 and $50,000. Loss of $6,000 to $10,000 annually. SNAP has a gradual phase out, but there are acceleration points between $25,000 and $35,000 where the reduction rate steepens. Housing assistance ties rent directly to 30% of income, so every raise directly increases what you pay in rent. A 2021 study by the Atlanta Federal Reserve found that for single parents earning between $10,000 and $40,000, effective marginal tax rates combining taxes paid and benefits lost ranged from 50% to over 95% across different income ranges. In some scenarios, Earning an extra $10,000 resulted in only $500 more in actual resources available to the household. The Government Accountability Office identified 47 different federal programs providing benefits that phase out based on income. When you add state and local programs, a single household could be interacting with more than 60 programs simultaneously, each with its own threshold, each with its own phase-out rate, each administered by a different agency that does not coordinate with the others. Now consider the tax bracket myth. People often say if I get a raise that pushes me into a higher tax bracket, I will take home less money. This is mathematically false for high earners. Progressive tax brackets only tax the money earned within that bracket at the higher rate. But here is the twist. While the tax bracket myth is wrong for high earners, it accidentally describes reality for low to middle income families. Not because the tax rate increases, because benefit losses function like a massive hidden tax. Someone earning $30,000 paying a 12% federal tax rate thinks that earning another $10,000 means paying 12% on that amount and keeping $8,800. The reality is different. That extra $10,000 triggers loss of SNAP benefits worth $2,400, reduction in childcare subsidy of $3,000, increase in subsidized housing rent of $600, reduction in the earned income tax credit of $800, the need to purchase marketplace insurance for $2,000, plus actual federal and state tax on the $10,000 of roughly $1,800. The total cost is $10,600. This person keeps negative $600. According to analysis by economists at the University of Chicago, benefit phase-outs create effective marginal tax rates of 70 to 90% for families in the second and third income deciles. Compare that to a top federal income tax rate of 37% for the highest earners. The system taxes upward mobility from poverty more severely than it taxes wealth. The Affordable Care Act subsidies create one of the sharpest cliffs in the entire system. Premium tax credits were originally available up to 400% of the federal poverty level, roughly $60,000 for a family of 3. Cross that line by $100 and you lost the entire subsidy, sometimes worth $15,000 per year. In 2017, before subsidy expansion, a family of 3 in North Carolina earning $58,000 qualified for $14,400 in annual premium subsidies. Their health insurance cost them $2,400 per year. One spouse took a part-time job earning $3,000 more. Household income rose to $61,000, just over the 400% threshold. They lost the entire subsidy overnight. Insurance now costs $16,800 per year. That $3,000 in extra earnings cost them $14,400 in subsidies. Net loss of $11,400. In 2021, Congress temporarily eliminated the 400% cliff, extending subsidies on a sliding scale, but it is temporary legislation requiring renewal. The cliff could return, and even with the fix, phase-out rates between 200 and 400% of the federal poverty level remain steep. Before the subsidy expansion, an estimated 5 million Americans earned within $10,000 of the 400% federal poverty level threshold, the danger zone where any income increase could trigger massive losses. Many reported deliberately reducing work hours or declining raises to stay eligible. These cliffs exist because of a collision between two incompatible political goals. Programs must be targeted to only help those who truly need it, and programs must be inexpensive and not create dependency. The result is benefits with tight income limits and sharp phase-outs. Gradual phase-outs cost more because benefits extend higher up the income ladder. Hard cliffs cost less in the budget but create poverty traps in reality. The system is not broken. It is working as designed. Designed by compromise, by agencies that do not coordinate, by politicians responding to contradictory demands. Nobody intended to trap people in poverty, but nobody has the political will to fix it, because fixing it would mean extending benefits higher up the income scale, which costs money, or simplifying and consolidating programs, which threatens bureaucratic territory, or admitting the system punishes work which is politically toxic. So that single mother in Pennsylvania turned down the promotion, stayed at $15 per hour, did the math and realized that for the next several years getting ahead financially would mean going backward in actual resources. This is not just about money. It is about what it does to your sense of agency. You cannot work your way out, you cannot earn your way up. You are trapped in a band of income where trying harder makes things worse. This person cannot take on additional hours or side work. It might push income over a threshold. cannot pursue training that might lead to a higher wage, lives in constant anxiety about benefits being recalculated, must report every income change to multiple agencies or risk penalties for fraud, feels guilty for gaming the system even though the system forces this calculation, cannot move in with a partner who works, even though that would help with childcare and living costs. Combined household income would blow past every threshold. The system penalizes household formation. It punishes people for building the stable family structures that policymakers claim to want. The child watches a parent turn down a promotion, learns that earning more can make you poorer, internalizes that the system is rigged, not in an abstract way, in a specific mathematical proven way. A 2018 study by the National Bureau of Economic Research found that single mothers aware of benefit cliffs were 40% less likely to accept wage increases that would push them into cliff zones, even when those increases would benefit them in the long term after benefits naturally phased out due to children aging out of programs. The short-term losses were too severe to absorb. There are approximately 9 million working households in the United States earning between $25,000 and $50,000. The zone where these cliffs are most concentrated and most brutal. Not all receive the same combination of benefits, but millions face some version of this calculation. These are people working full-time, following the rules, and the system makes that the wrong move. Here is the insight that changes how you see everything. The cruelty is not that benefits end as people earn more. That makes sense. The cruelty is that they end so abruptly and in such poorly coordinated ways that they create zones of income where you are financially better off earning less. The system has criminalized upward mobility in the exact income range where upward mobility is hardest to achieve and most desperately needed, and this problem is invisible to the people with the power to fix it. If you have never earned between $25,000 and $50,000 while supporting a family, you do not see these cliffs, you do not experience them. They exist in a part of the economic spectrum that most policymakers, journalists, and academics pass through briefly in their 20s or never entered at all. The people trapped by these cliffs have the least political power, the least time to advocate for change, and their experience is the most likely to be dismissed as just not understanding how taxes work. The American financial system imposes its highest effective tax rate on single parents earning $35,000, not on billionaires, and it is not even a tax, it is something worse. It is a punishment for trying. If you are in the cliff zone, here is what you can do. Map your specific cliffs. Every state and every program combination creates different thresholds. You need to know your personal cliff points. The website benefits.gov will show combined eligibility across programs. Your state Department of Human Services should have benefit calculators. Some nonprofit legal aid organizations provide benefits counseling. Consider the jump-through strategy. If a raise pushes you over a cliff, calculate exactly how much more you would need to earn to actually be better off after the losses. Sometimes it is $5,000 more, sometimes $15,000. If you can negotiate a larger raise that clears the cliff zone entirely, that might work. If you cannot, the rational move might be to wait. Time major changes with life transitions. Many benefits are tied to children's ages. Childcare subsidies end when kids enter school. Medicaid for children continues longer than for adults in some states. If you are close to one of those natural transition points, that might be the time to accept a raise. You are going to lose some benefits anyway. Focus on asset building within the rules. Many benefit programs do not count certain assets. Retirement accounts up to limits, vehicles, home equity, education savings in 529 plans. If you cannot increase income without triggering losses, focus on building assets that will not disqualify you from benefits. And do not feel guilty for making the rational choice. The system created this calculation. You did not. If you are not in the cliff zone, understand that this is a design problem, not a people problem. When you hear that someone turned down a raise or reduced their hours to keep benefits, the response should not be that they are gaming the system. The response should be that the system is designed badly. The policy fix exists, gradual benefit phase-outs instead of hard cliffs. Universal programs that do not income test. Coordinated administration so all programs use the same income calculation and timeline. Other countries do this. It is not complicated. It is politically difficult because it costs more upfront. But it would cost less than the lost economic productivity of millions of people trapped in narrow income bands, afraid to earn more. Support policies that extend benefits higher up the income ladder with slower phase-outs. Support consolidation of overlapping programs. Support politicians who acknowledge this problem exists. The cliff zone affects millions of families, but it is not a voting bloc because the people experiencing it are too busy surviving to organize politically. The financial system should reward work. That is not a controversial statement. But right now, for millions of people, it does the opposite. It punishes the exact behavior it claims to encourage. A single mother in Pennsylvania ran the numbers and turned down a raise because the system gave her no choice. That is not a failure of character. That is not a failure of work ethic. That is a system working exactly as it was designed, and the design is brutal. The invisible wall is real, it is measurable, it is documented, and it stands directly in the path of people trying to climb out of poverty. Until we acknowledge that the system punishes upward mobility at specific income thresholds, we will keep wondering why people stay stuck. They are not stuck because they are not trying. They are stuck because trying makes it worse. And that is a truth the financial system does not want you to see.